Levitate Legal is more than a law firm. We're your thought partners in solving big problems. Our team of seasoned professionals have secured and managed over $200 million in funding for our partners, and we're just getting started. Local governments, nonprofits, and corporate entities contact Levitate Legal for your legal compliance, program design, grant funding, and public policy needs. Follow us on YouTube and visit us at www.levitatelegal.com.
Anthony Daniels is a former educator, small business owner, and legislator running for Alabama's newly created 2nd Congressional District. He earned a bachelor's degree in elementary education and a master's degree in special education from Alabama A&M University. His public service career began as a teacher and working for the National Education Association. Now, Daniels is serving his 3rd term in the Alabama House of Representatives, rising through the ranks to become the youngest and first African American minority leader in state history. Daniels is praised for growing Alabama's economy, elevating opportunities for working families, and building bipartisan coalitions to pass legislation. Leader Daniels authored legislation to eliminate state income tax on overtime pay for Alabama workers, which Republican Governor Kay Ivey recently signed into law. As minority leader, he has successfully steered hundreds of millions of dollars in economic investment into the 2nd District and was named 2015 Legislator of the Year. Leader Daniels is married to Dr. Tanisha Daniels and the proud father of 2 daughters, Madison and Abigail, and son, Anthony, whose birthday is today. Happy birthday. You're welcome. Well, let's get your dad to tell us a joke.
So, what do you call a train carrying bubblegum?
What?
A choo-choo train.
I got one for you. 5 out of 6 people agree that Russian roulette is safe.
I don't know.
All right, how about this? What do you call a guy who's really loud? Mike.
Oh, Lord. A loud guy.
A loud guy. First things first. We go back a minute.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll never forget. We hadn't been friends very long, and you were having a fundraiser up in DC, and I walked in, and I was surprised that you were so surprised.
You know, I often think about that too.
Yeah, man, and ever since, we've been like family, we've been like brothers, and I don't know that I've ever said this specifically, but I'm so proud of you. Like, you have done a lot in a short period of time. But I fell in love with you through introduction and getting to know you, but I don't really know your background. I don't know who your mama and them. You know what I'm saying? I don't know where you went to church as a kid. You know what I'm saying? Did you
Yeah.
play sports in school?
Yeah.
Like, tell me about you that ain't on paper.
So a lot of things, and thank you, man. I certainly appreciate what you do here for our state. And again, you're right. I was surprised, and it really, I was really happy, really to see you, somebody from Alabama, supporting our efforts to, because you knew that my advocacy has been to really help people get elected, help get more Democrats elected. Although sometimes you feel alone, but I have colleagues that are here in the Jefferson County area and across the state that's really been supporting those efforts as well. And we finally picked up a House seat. Before 2006, we picked up a state House seat.
Took a minute.
Election. Exactly. And ran on issues that we believed in instead of running from them.
Yeah.
And so that was and so who am I? A lot of folks don't realize that I was raised by my grandparents primarily.
Okay.
My grandparents, Willie Mae and Willie James Dubose, were sharecroppers until about 1978, about 4 years before I was born. My mother, the second oldest of 9 children, was born on this same plantation.
9.
So I'm literally one generation from removed from being born on a plantation in the land of Governor Wallace, the place of Jim Crow, and the home of the field trials, Midway, Alabama.
Yeah.
And so I came from humble beginnings.
If you don't mind, I don't want to interrupt you, but I want to stay right there for a quick second. What kind of childhood did that create for you? I don't want to gloss over that. You know, what was it like? I mean, most people are 3 generations away from sharecropping and slavery and whatnot. Some 2, 1. You know, that's.
So it was. I didn't. You growing up in poverty and growing up raised by your grandparents, you didn't really know you're in poverty. I grew up similar to my friends' great grandparents, and their great grandparents have more in common with me than I have with my friends.
Yeah.
And so what people don't realize is that my grandparents endured a lot of challenges growing up, but for me, it was the faith. Growing up in the church at Calvary Baptist Church, I grew up Baptist. Now I'm AME.
Okay.
But I grew up in the Baptist church. My grandmother made certain that I was at church every Sunday. In the summertime, we used to call it free lunch, but going to summer Bible study at the church. And so I grew up like that.
So you were a church kid. Yeah.
I grew up in the working in the hayfield and out doing.
And a country boy.
Yeah, absolutely. And so being raised primarily by my grandparents, it was amazing. It was an amazing experience. So I don't see anything as a challenge.
Yeah.
For me, nothing bothers me.
Yeah.
And I try to stay focused and say there's nothing that can rattle me. And a lot of folks said that, that's one of the issues they have with me is that I'm never bothered by anything because I have the same demeanor. Okay. And it's not that there's not any pain or anything like that. It's just that I deal with challenges and obstacles as opportunities. I don't see them as a challenge or an obstacle. And so for me, I grew up, I would be honest with you, with a rolling store coming around, where my grandmother would barter eggs in exchange for goods. What I knew about credit was putting something on my grandmother's bill down the local haberdashery. And so I grew up on a dirt road, like not many people today, but on a small 1 acre lot where my grandparents, we were raising, we had hogs. So once a year, the community would get together and make cracklings. Chickens, getting our eggs from the chickens.
Yeah.
Going in the garden and eating as many green plums as I can until I got a headache.
Yeah.
And
so I know they're proud of you. I mean, not your grandparents, but your people. That's a lot. You've risen from. A lot of people say humble beginnings, but you have humble beginnings.
Yeah, a lot of folks had a silver spoon or a gold spoon. Hell, I didn't have a fork. But it is something that's really helped me look at people differently, meaning that I've been through those challenges growing up. So I look at people that are going through those challenges today throughout whether it's urban or rural areas. And so they have a voice. I'm their voice. And so
and keep going. Church and what school did you go to?
I went to Merritt Elementary School in Midway, Alabama. I graduated from Bullitt County High School.
Okay.
A lot of people in the area know me as being a star athlete. I was a 6'3" point guard. Started on
Okay.
the varsity at point guard. Played AAU basketball in
Still
Florida
get a
with my
bucket?
parents.
Can you still get a
I think
bucket?
I can get a few, but not as good as I used to. So Amari Stoudemire and I were teammates in AAU.
Okay.
I was a backup to Tracy McGrady when I was in 7th grade. He was in like 10th or 11th grade. And so they built a team around my age group, which is how Amari Stoudemire and I became teammates. And so
Okay.
I was a pretty decent basketball player, and I tore my ACL in football, which is why I'm such an advocate for healthcare.
Mm.
Because I was on my parents' insurance who lived in Florida, I had to wait 9 months to have the surgery because I lived in Alabama.
Oh, wow.
And so those are the things that I see from a challenge standpoint, to where a career that was so promising in athletics ended up becoming forcing me to focus on something else, which God had it all in his plans. And that's where I am today. And so I look at that. I thought that athletics was my way of getting out of the community in order to give back to the community because of the type of dollars that you make as a professional athlete. And so I thought that was my way of giving back. And so when I tore my ACL, I went through this point of disappointment, but I worked really hard to get back. In fact, I did my own rehab. I went to rehab one day for the ACL surgery. Came back to Alabama and started doing my own rehab. So I thought I wanted to be a physical therapist at one point.
Mm-hmm.
But being an elementary school teacher is the path that I went down at Alabama A&M, majoring in elementary education, master's in special education. I was a
Now,
third grade teacher.
tell me what made you go to A&M? Is that family ties, a good recruiter, the education school? What made you choose A&M?
To be honest with you, I caught a ride with one of my classmates and went on a college trip. Her mom said that she was going on a college trip. I went on that trip with them. I was being talked to by Alabama A&M during my athletic tenure, but I never gave them a thought.
Mm-hmm.
But I went on that free field trip with my friend and her mom, and I fell in love with the campus when I got there. I went to Alabama State in the summertime in the springtime. They took our class on trips where J.L. Chestnut and others, Jock Smith, they would do seminars around law,
Mm-hmm.
which kind of sparked my interest in law early on. But I ended up taking a different path, and Alabama A&M was the best experience for me. And the reason I'll say that, I think that many of our HBCUs have the same culture.
Amen.
It's a home away from home.
Yeah.
And you have people that are still there that's pushing you and to do your very best. And if you get out of line, they're just like your parents, man, just like the community that I was raised in.
Yeah.
You know, one of the hardest part of my upbringing is when my grandmother died of colon cancer in the bed next to me when I was in 5th grade. And so from 5th grade to 12th grade, I lived in 6 different households with different family members, from my parents to my aunt to my uncles. And so that experience taught me a whole lot as well. It forced me to work harder. It forced me to be more intentional about what I do and how I give my time back, and what can I do to really help my community. And so, but you always faced with challenges because you haven't been exposed to the things that other families have been exposed to. My parents didn't go to college. My grandparents didn't go to college. My grandmother had a 4th grade education. My grandfather had a 6th grade education. But they knew that going to college provides an opportunity for me to be able to make a decent living in life. And so that's what they drilled into me early on. My grandfather talked about the experiences on that, as a sharecropper. He talked about those experiences and the challenges with those experiences, but they were able to make it out. And so for me, I built like this. To where there's no obstacles you can put in front of me. And that's why I have a heart of gold of trying to help people. Because when I go back to Bullitt County, or even I'm here in Birmingham or any community that have challenges, when I see those young people, I see who I used to be. And when they see me, they see who they can be. And they understand that, hey, this guy came from, if not equal or worse situation than I've come from.
Yeah.
If he made it, I can make it. And that's where I am. I just want to be an inspiration. Not that I would choose the upbringing that I had, but I think it presents an opportunity for me to tell my story, which is why I wrote a book in 2009, to talk about the challenges, to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly, to talk about being chairman of the National Education Association at the age of 23, where I had to move to D.C. and took on an issue that was personal to me, where I had $58,000 in student loan debt, major in education. About $29,000 a year would have been the starting salary. So I took that story, my story, to DC and was worked out at NEA headquarters, and I put all of my eggs in that basket. And so because of my story, if you Google Anthony Daniels plus college affordability or education, you'll see articles that'll come back up from 2006, 2007, where I was leading the nation on this conversation because it was personal to me. And so now you see the loan forgiveness, it was around my story because I went into public service. So I had all the resources working for NEA. So I was able to put all of my eggs in that basket. But a year and a half into my term as chairman of the NEA at the age of 23, legislation passed that helped millions of people across the country and still in place today. And so I had to have family members in politics. I didn't even know what politics was.
Yeah.
I would be actively involved on the campus of Alabama A&M with student AEA or with NAACP, but I had no clue about what was in front of me.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't a career path that I was trying to go down. And so then after that, I started teaching. When I returned, my term ended as a non-renewable term. I had a great experience traveling the country, championing that issue. It increased membership for NEA student program. It put them in a very key position, let people see what they were doing. But it also helped me understand how to build coalitions to get things done, unlikely coalitions.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did that at the age of 23. So when I started teaching, I taught third grade at a public magnet school. I taught fourth grade at a Title I school. And then I taught fourth and fifth grade on an Indian reservation where they had outhouses and dirt roads. And so, but one of the things that I noticed about all of those experiences is that every family, regardless of the experience, wanted their child to be successful. Some had the playbook from generations, and some had no clue.
Mm.
And so I wanted to become an inspiration. I started coaching basketball on that reservation. In fact, there were so many kids that came out to play, I had to coach both teams. Both teams that I was coaching ended up making it to the championship game to play against each other, and I had to coach from half court.
Are you serious?
Yes. And
that is cool.
But it was a great experience,
Yeah.
which really got me interested more and more in policy. But I had to go and get some real work experience to really be able to see things from a different vantage point. You know, working in an elected position for NEA, you're able to see it from the high level
Mm-hmm.
of being able to make decisions and they get executed by the staff and everyone else, or be an advocate and have your voice heard because of the resources you have access to. But going into that classroom, humbling myself again, rehumbling myself to not just be here at the NEA, but come down and make certain that I don't forget the common touch. I don't lose the common touch.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I taught third grade, when I taught fourth grade, when I taught fifth grade combo, that experience humbled me so much to where I saw the challenges that these parents were having. And so that's what sparked my interest in going to politics. You know, and so going into politics, being in the House of Representatives in 2014, in a district that Democrats didn't think I could win, because oftentimes we're not political insiders. And so when you see the numbers that, this district is not majority African American, you automatically say there's no way that a black person can win. But
Right.
that wasn't my thought process. I've never thought like that. And so I got elected by 78%. I'm still looking for that 22% that didn't vote for me.
What'd they think?
And it was against a young man that was well known in North Alabama that played running back at the University of Michigan that's from the Huntsville area. But he didn't get many yards in that game.
I like it. Well, I want to know, as you've continued your story from that point, what is it like being a black man trying to advance issues that help black people in Montgomery?
So it can be challenging at times from a success standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
But I pride myself on playing 3D chess while everybody else is playing checkers.
Mm.
And so I've already thought through the process and thought through the talking points and thought through the being able to work behind the scenes to help others understand what they can't understand.
Mm-hmm.
And to have those conversations. And sometimes I have to be the tree shaker. And you, right here in this community, you have a lot of folks that's good at that role.
Yeah.
But it gives me more opportunity as a leader to negotiate It helps me better go to negotiate, because somebody said to me, they said, we're not going to get our general killed. Meaning that if we got to go out in the front lines and cover you and fight to give you an opportunity to negotiate, that's what we're going to do. And that's how I've been as successful as I have in the Alabama legislature and passing legislation, because I got hammers, I got tree shakers, I got folks that's willing to play whatever role it is to make sure the team wins. We got people that are there, man, that have been there, that I'll tell you, these are the best people I've ever met in my life. Some of the hardest working people that I've met in my life. And you can't measure success just by legislation. You got to measure success about who's willing to step up to give you the opportunity. Because I can't pass legislation if they don't play the defense that they play.
Right.
Or the offense when we need them to play offense.
That's right.
And so none of this is possible without the folks on the front line, the street fighters, the folks that's not afraid to go to the microphone and push back on extremism. People are not afraid to follow the playbook, so that because they know the outcome that is going to yield. And so the overtime bill came up with the idea. Folks thought I was crazy. There's no way this is going to happen. I talked to the guy that's over the union. He laughed at me for 20 minutes.
I thought you was crazy.
And so this was just an example of helping other people understand what they can't understand. Okay, this is a pro-worker piece of legislation. It creates an opportunity for workers to be able to take home more money. With inflation, you see the prices going up. So workers need more money. If their employer not going to give them more money, then I have to figure out a way to get them more money in their pockets. Because guess what? It benefits the local economy because they're going to spend that money. All right. It gives them an opportunity not to have to get an extra job, but it also encourages them to work a little bit more, so that from a production standpoint, the company is at or ahead of schedule. And so it's just a win-win situation. Or whether it's childcare. I introduced a bill 2 weeks ago to give families up to $2,000 back on reimbursement for childcare.
I was going to go somewhere else, but I got you here and on the subject. Explain this potential bill to Anthony Jr. Okay. Tell us what, because I personally think it's a brilliant idea, having, on-site daycares, getting tax, but just explain what we're talking about. Because it's important to get Alabamians back to work.
Absolutely. We have, in order to increase the participation rate in the state of Alabama, while at the same time educating kids at the highest level possible, we rated childcare from 1 to 5. And so if your childcare facility is rated at a 5, then that means you're able to get more money on a reimbursement or tax credit. So a business, a corporation that wants to build a on-site childcare facility for their employees, or partner with other employers, where those families that want to re-enter the workforce, they will be able to get their childcare reimbursement from childcare directly reimbursement, or the money will go directly to the childcare facility, the provider. So if they don't have an on-site provider, then somewhere they can still qualify for it through another facility. So for me, what I see is an opportunity to bring more families back into the workforce.
Right.
Because with my children being, he's 6 today and my daughter's 8. When they were smaller, I was paying so much money for childcare.
Boss.
But I knew that I had to do it in order for my wife and I to be able to go to work.
I think some people don't, particularly our older voters, they don't realize just how bad the child care situation. It is so expensive. And for the state to be taking this up, I applaud all of you, because, it is in a lot of houses, especially the more kids you get, or the more kids you have, the harder it is for mom to get back to work, or whatever the case may be, because of the expense of childcare. So I want to give you guys a kudos on that. But we know you now a little bit, so let's get to work, right? Tell me, I have done a lot of poking around to see what people are talking about as far as this race is concerned. And one of the places that I have gotten a few questions and ideas and thoughts from is the Deuce is Wild. Deuce is Wild group. And one of the things that people are talking about back and forth, your residency, Shamari Figures' residency, all of this stuff. And I just want you to address that from your perspective. And, I want to hear what you have to say about those jabs, if you will.
Well, they've made this race before I got in the race. They made it about residency, and they tried to. But Anthony Daniels was raised in Midway, Alabama, Bullock County.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I was raised.
Mm-hmm.
That's my hometown. That sits in the heart of this district. Anthony Daniels is in Montgomery 4 to 5 months out of the year every year. I've been in this district for the last 10 years, being in Montgomery 4 to 5 months out of the year. And even sometimes more because of my role as a minority leader and helping other legislators get projects done in their districts. And so I've represented the people in this district without actually staying the night in the district.
Mm-hmm.
But it's my home. This is home where I go for Christmas. This is where I go for Thanksgiving. This is where I go for the 4th of July. This is where I go and do sports camps on my own dime. I've been doing that for the last 10 years, over 10 years. I do stay in bounds camps that help kids that stay in bounds in life and on the court.
Mm.
I've done robotics camps in Bullock County. I just sent 32 kids from Russell County to Space Camp free of charge. Kids that parents that would never be able to afford to send their children there and pay room and board.
Mm.
I just sent 32 kids in Monroe County to Space Camp. And right outside the district, I put dollars into, made certain that Dallas County got dollars to start the rebuilding process for their schools.
Mm.
Or Lowndes County getting their infrastructure for the water and sewer. Or pushing the Rebuild Alabama Act to be able to put more money on the ground in these communities to start rebuilding roads and bridges.
Mm.
So for me, at the end of the day, it's about deliverables. Now, I have a home in Montgomery. I actually have a home in Montgomery. But what we have to understand is I don't have to fly an airplane into the district. I can drive. And so for me, my opponent has been talking about the residency, saying that he can vote for himself. Well, he's registered to vote in November. Rent an apartment in Alabama in October, November timeframe. But you have a home in Maryland.
Mm.
So who's going to trade a home for an apartment if their intentions are pure? I've been here on the front lines. I was fighting in the state of Alabama. This district wouldn't even be created without me.
Mm.
I started this process in 2017 when I became minority leader. Call the holder groups. You can verify. I worked with the holder group to talk about filing a lawsuit for this district. I even helped them find plaintiffs for this. They dismissed the lawsuit, I think it was 2019. So everybody else that was interested in filing a similar lawsuit all came together. Fought in the legislature to create this district. So you think I'm going to sit by and allow somebody that flies in on an airplane to try to take a district that he had no part in creating? There's not even evidence of a community service project from this guy in the last 20 years. And now you all of a sudden, conveniently, you want to come to Alabama and think you can pull the wool over their head by taking a picture with the president? Let's talk about what role you played. Top aide? What does that mean? That's not a position last time I checked. Human resources does not qualify you to be elected to Congress. Working for the Attorney General of the United States as a deputy, how many deputies are there? Is there? How many deputies? There's a lot of deputies. So if you had Alabama on your mind, meaning you didn't advise the Attorney General of the United States, who has jurisdiction over the overcrowdedness and the condition of Alabama prisons, to intervene, but you had Alabama on your mind? These officers involved shootings all across the state, Mobile, all across the state, Montgomery, Birmingham, Huntsville, all these different places. But the Justice Department never thought to intervene. If Alabama was on your mind and you're right there as a deputy that's connected to the Attorney General of the United States of America? Come on.
Man, you've dotted on several things that I wanted to talk about. So forgive me as I back you up because I want you to expound on a couple of things. Now, personally, voters, like Roger Smitherman told me one time, the voters are always right. Whatever they decide, the voters are always right. So if people care about residency, I wanted you to have the opportunity to address it. Although, you know, I know the work, you know what I mean? I know the work that both of you have done, want to do, etc. I just wanted you to address it. As it relates to the gun violence, we are, going through hell here in Birmingham right now. And I know that, the same is happening all over the country, particularly in, your Montgomerys, your Birminghams, your Mobile. What can the congressman do to help in that sense? And more importantly, what can regular Black men, other people do as to help our public safety officials and our political officials?
So gun violence is always a challenge, and you got to look at it by community. What I've been finding, Ivy, is that even in rural communities, crime is up significantly. But as part of the problem is the law that was passed and forced by the Republicans to allow a person not to get a gun permit to be able to carry a weapon without having a gun permit. There's no protections in there for individuals that are mentally ill. A mentally ill person can't access a weapon without going to get a gun permit. We have to have a universal background check, number one. We have to make certain that we're putting more investments in Boys and Girls Club and summer programs and after-school programs. There's no child in any community across the state of Alabama, unless their parents choose not to do so, that should not have access to after-school and summer programs. That's a sort of an enrichment to their yearly learning. They should be exposed to more. Mm. There should be universal pre-K across the board with a mixed delivery system, partnering with churches, nonprofits, for-profits, to ensure that every child that's born in any city in this state have access to child care at 6 weeks and 1 day after they take that 6-week shot. And so the way to reduce gun violence is exposure. We have to make more investments in programs. The other thing we have to do, there are 5 military bases that are directly inside of this congressional district, and that's proximity. We've seen in Madison County, without the DOD, Madison County is Bullock County. So therefore, you leverage the military bases to drive growth and opportunity. What you do with the military bases is you push to get more contractors, have more of a contracting presence. So right now you have Maxwell Air Force Base. They focus on the War College and they focus on more training. You got to diversify what's offered on Maxwell Air Force Base to meet the demands of the K-12 system in the community college and four-year institutions within the Montgomery region, so that you're graduating students to fill jobs, but you're supporting the military. Same thing in Fort Rucker, which is now Fort Novosel. There are community in Pike County. There are people in Pike County. Let's focus on training and creating opportunities. So every military installation should have something unique that they offer. But as a member of Congress, you got to focus on driving opportunities to those military bases that's going to drive growth in the community that surrounds it and the entire region. That does not require a terminal degree. So you have some degreed areas, but you got to have some other areas that may be dealing with maybe dual enrollment, where it may be some courses of certifications. Mm-hmm. Maintenance has to happen on military bases. Air conditioning, refrigeration, creating products. T-shirts. Somebody that owns a T-shirt shop in Montgomery or Russell County or Pike County, they should be able to. We should connect them to the military with the technical support so they can apply for contracts that deal with apparel.
had never given any thought to the partnerships or potential partnerships between our military bases and our communities. I guess because there usually hasn't been
The
very
military needs a lot of things. As a member of Congress with 5 military bases that are in proximity or directly inside this district, you got to work with your local officials and make certain that we're taking people to a place that they've probably never been or thought of, right? But because I have experience of working with Redstone Arsenal and pushing in the city of Huntsville and other places to get more minority-owned businesses that are contractors in the pipeline and ready to be able to do the job. Because what happens? If there's a t-shirt shop here and there's a military base in proximity, then I know I can project how much revenue I'm going to make annually. I can buy in bulk. Guess what? Then when I'm on the commercial side, I'm going to sell the per t-shirt is a lot less, which makes it more affordable to the community that haven't had a pay raise, people that hadn't had a pay raise. So they become more affordability.
I want to remind you of the question, and I'm going to point out a problem you have as I ask it. All you heard was, what can you do? And you wanted to answer that question, but I want you to tell me what I can do. Tell us what the community needs to do to help you help us.
What community? First of all, the community needs to elect me to Congress. Electing someone that actually has the receipts, has the experience, and have been in a difficult situation. I am the super minority leader.
Okay? Yes.
And so if I'm the super minority leader and I've been able to operate and pass meaningful legislation that impact your pocket and your families in a positive way, imagine what I could do if the numbers are quite close or if the Democrats are in charge.
And as you continue to answer, I want to insert, show us the difference between the two of you. You know, as you are pointing these things out,
the difference is experience.
Mm-hmm.
My opponent worked basically in human resources during the Obama administration, and he was, of course, he's a licensed attorney working in the Justice Department. No economic development experience, no education experience, no real life experience that the common person that lives in the district has. So how are you going to send a hungry boy to Washington, D.C. to get your lunch? You're already $2 million behind. Outside interests have put $2 million probably over $2 million by now to support a congressman. And nobody's putting that type of money into supporting a campaign without some type of expected return.
Mm-hmm.
So how can you legitimately represent a group of people or people in general if there's a group that's helping you, that's be responsible for you getting elected? If you're elected, how can you represent the people? 77% of my donors are from Alabama. 77%. And so I don't owe anyone but the people of Alabama. That's who I owe. So you need a congressman that's going to be free from any control or influence by any other person or group. I've been in politics 10 years. Nobody's ever questioned my integrity. Nobody's ever questioned anybody bought and paying for me. Every decision that's made is an independent decision based upon my life experiences, the information that I received at that time, and the members that I represent.
I want to point out that unlike my friend Terry Sewell, who we are so proud of, she has an easy district, if you will, because it's solidly Democrat. Even me, if Wallace Gilberry or some strong black man conservative jumped in, I might have some different feelings around here. You're in what has been drawn to be a competitive district, which makes it very different, makes you and Terry very different. I want you to address what type of legislator you propose, or who you see yourself being, given the fact that you're in a competitive district and not a solid blue. Once you win the primary, it's over.
So here's the difference. The difference is that there's polling out there that they've had folks have had conversation with me as late as 48 hours ago that states that I'm leading this race against Dick Brubaker by 9 points, and I'm beating Dobbs by 5. My opponent is losing against Dobbs and neck with Dick Brubaker. The difference between the two of us is the receipts that I have, is the legislative experience and victories that impact people. So I'll have more crossover appeal, meaning that my existence has been more about results than it has been partisanship. Now, I'm definitely partisan. I'm a Democrat through and through, but I've been able to get things done that actually help people. And so the difference is, you can look at it from a rural perspective, that I perform better in rural areas than any Democrat that ran in this district. Right? And so my rural performance, especially in that eastern part of the state, shows that. Pike, Bullitt, all those different areas that are trending. Mm-hmm. And so looking at my ability to be able to get rural people, because I'm one of them. That's what my theme is. Right? One of us for all of us. Meaning that I grew up in a rural community, so I understand rural people. I represent the urban community, so I understand urban issues. Mm-hmm. And so you get the best of both worlds. You got a congressman that's going to think about everybody, not just certain parts of the state. But there's a difference, Iva, between working for a politician and actually being one. A different dynamic. Different dynamic. If you've never written legislation, if you've never championed legislation, and there's no record of you even speaking up for or against legislation. Every citizen, I've seen you stand up and fight against things and talk about issues. I've never seen my opponent stand up one time before this race and talk about one issue. And it's still not talking about an issue. You know, my grandparents raised me, and you'll never hear about their name. But let me tell you about it. They raised a hardworking person that's going to work harder than anyone else, and that's going to think things through before making a decision. And if it's the right decision, I'm going to make that decision. If it's the wrong decision, I'm not going to make that decision. I'm not running on my parents. I'm not running on who I can take a picture with. Hell, I got pictures of me and Obama. And so I'm not going to try to mislead the people as if I'm someone that I'm not. I have the receipts of deliverables. You can't even point to one successful thing that my opponent has done, even advising the Attorney General of the United States of America, of anything that impacts Alabama. Name one. And so for me, it's easy. Yeah, you have cryptocurrency putting over $2 million to try to help you get elected. And the people of Alabama are wondering, why in the world would they just all of a sudden choose you to invest over $2 million for? Same people that are affiliated with some other things that I think is questionable. And I don't have any problem with the crypto industry per se, but I just have a problem with any group investing that type of money in a race without really understanding exactly what the end goal is. Mm-hmm. It's concerning, and it should be concerning to all of us.
What are if I asked you, the needs are so great, so it's kind of putting you in a position, but forgive me. But if you had to prioritize your top 3 things, what would they be?
Healthcare would be number one, because a mother that's in Monroe County have to drive 90 miles one way and 114 the other way just to have a child, because their maternal care unit is gone. There are so many of the rural hospital closures that have happened, and some of the hospitals are operating with very limited resources. And so healthcare will be number one. Mm-hmm. The other one will be education. We're losing too many young people to street violence, to violence in general. But we have to educate them at the highest level to ensure that they understand that they have an opportunity to live the American dream right here. So universal pre-K, workforce development as early as middle school, pathways. It shouldn't be, in the state of Alabama, kids should not be limited to having to test into a specialized school to get access to learning or to going through a certain track. There should be a public health track, an engineering track in every county, every school system, a partnership with hospitals, a partnership with engineering firms, so that these kids get real world work experience and get an opportunity internship to make sure that that is what they want to be and do in life. Or if a child don't want to go to college, a 4-year institution, that we have a track for them to be able to go and get a job immediately. That we're helping them with financial literacy. That we're helping them about what it looks like to own your own home, what that process looks like, giving them real world experiences to make them a better them long term. So that's why the education piece is important.
Yeah.
Our higher education institution, we should be making more investments in Alabama State and in Tuskegee, in Troy, in our community colleges as well, so that they are on they're being the best that they can be, and they're producing kids at a high rate, and they do a phenomenal job, but they need more investments because they've been deprived of investment. Now, Congresswoman Sewell, until she got into the Montgomery area, they weren't getting resources.
Right.
Congresswoman Sewell has done a phenomenal job, and she needs a partner, somebody that understands the political process, not someone that she has to babysit for the first 4 to 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
And last but not least, economic development and opportunity for small businesses. After COVID, what we learned, about 40% of Black-owned businesses went under and never coming back. We got to start restoring hope, access to capital for small businesses, creating opportunities that's not limited to tech jobs, but just a mom and pop's business or someone with an idea, giving the opportunity to be able to produce.
Let me play devil's advocate. What if I said we don't need mom and pop? You know, we need electricians. You know, we need medical teachers. What the plethora of things that you said. Tell me, why are the mom and pops important?
The moms and pops are important because right now, when there is a large, right now they don't have access to capital. Right now, it's harder for banks to loan mom and pops, folks that have mom and pop small businesses, any money. But small businesses is the backbone of our country. I remember Mr. SD down the street from my grandmother's house that had his store. He had a store and a laundromat all connected together. But Mr. SD was that store no longer exists because there was a dollar store that was within 5 to 6 miles away. And so for people like Mr. SD that can't go to the bank to expand their business, to grow their business, it created a challenge for him and his entire family. But it created a challenge for the community where once you would drive a mile to a store, now you got to drive 10 to 12 miles to a store. And so we got to be careful and strike the balance. I'm not against a dollar store or anything like that, but I'm more for the mom and pops stores. I'm more for the small businesses.
I ain't studying them dollar stores.
Well, look.
But I mean, I'm older. I remember, like, you went to Ace Hardware to get what you needed there. You went to AMP, what you get there, and all these stores were owned by local people. Versus now, you go to Walmart and you get what you get, or the dollar store, and I miss the feel of local business. And like you said, that ain't even talking about the families impacted and going out of business or whatnot. I'm just saying, as far as quality, as far as competition is concerned, I hate the way dollar stores and Walmart runs people out of business?
Well, I think that we do provide incentives for the larger ones, the Walmarts of the world, from a tax incentive dating back to the Bush administration. But there's nothing really out there for small businesses at the level that for them to be able to grow and compete. And so the access to capital piece is real. I do think like that Biden did increase, I think about to 15% where set aside for minority owned small businesses in the defense industry. And so I think that that's something that can generate wealth and opportunity for the Black family. But I think that for the small business owner in general, whether it's woman owned, whether it's minority owned in general, it creates the same effect for them. But I think that what we have to do is on the access to capital, there's so many limitations, and I understand it's risky, but we have to share some risk because we don't think twice about offering incentive to those larger ones that come into our communities. That's now because of automation, AI is not producing or providing as many jobs as we thought they were providing.
That's another point.
And that's not a human being that's paying taxes. And so I think that we have to be more intentional about how we do this. And there's a way to strike the balance without going too far one way or the other. But creating opportunity, giving families an opportunity to smile again. Giving parents the confidence that their children are going to be educated at the highest level. Giving teachers and support staff the opportunity to make more money and show that they are appreciated. Giving mayors of small towns an opportunity and a platform to be able to come to Capitol Hill or go with you on these recruitment trips. Now, many of these towns don't have these big economic development departments. They can't afford to go to the Paris Air Show. But I want to be able to take that town and that mayor and that city council and that county commission and the entire region. I want to be able to take them directly to these countries that are looking for what they have to offer. To be able to deal directly, because air shows sometimes is a bidding war. Mm-hmm. It's a big party. But I think that we have to be more intentional, and you have to be more of a hands-on member of Congress. Someone that's signed checks on the front as a business owner. And I'm a small business owner. I sign checks on the front. But I also provide high quality. I provide health insurance. I provide really good salaries for my employees. And so, but every business don't have access to that. They don't have where a person go get cosmetic procedures done and they're reimbursed, and that's cash business. Yeah. So I cannot push policies that directly, indirectly, and directly negatively impact their ability to make money and make a living, but provide the high quality salaries to their employees. We got to build people. We're not giving, it's not about handouts. It's about a hand up. Oftentimes people say, oh, you got to grab yourself by your own bootstrap. Well, these folks don't have any boots.
That's a good point.
So I understand those things. Being a teacher, being a small business owner here in Alabama. I left Alabama for 2 years in 2006 to 2008 when I was chairman of the NEA. I was left one more time to go teach on the Indian reservation between Albuquerque and Santa Fe, New Mexico. But I've been in Alabama at least 38 of the 41 years I've been in existence. Alabama's been on my mind because guess what? I care enough about Alabama to stay in Alabama.
Well, do me a favor. Look at them and tell them, take 2 minutes and talk to them.
It's very simple. There's a difference between working for a politician and actually being one. You've seen my work as a House Minority Leader and as a legislator in general. With us passing the bill to eliminate the income tax on overtime pay, which is giving hourly workers a 5% pay raise on overtime, which is something I want to do at the federal level, which will definitely give them a major increase in take-home pay. Child care. I introduced a bill here that's being talked about in the Alabama legislature that give families up to $2,000 reimbursement or directly in their checks by their employers, an opportunity for reimbursement for child care or in their checks to pay for child care. I've passed legislation that gives push for us to be able to add more dollars for startup businesses through Innovate Alabama, which I serve on the board of. Created a school of cybersecurity and engineering, the first of its kind, where 26% of the students, that's written into the legislation, where 26% of the students must be African American from across the state of Alabama. Or whether it's helping Lowndes County or Dallas County with their infrastructure needs, or helping a legislator with the projects that's important to their community, or whether it's taking my own dime and going to Bullitt County to do robotics programs and partner with the DoD to do robotics programs for kids that never had that opportunity otherwise. Or whether it's fighting to expand Medicaid, continue to pressure the state government to expand Medicaid. But one of my number one priorities is to pass legislation to allow the state of Alabama to start over with 100% match, so that there's no excuses to expand the Medicaid. But improving the quality of life. I'm from rural Alabama. I understand rural Alabama. I represent urban Alabama. I understand urban Alabama. We have to send someone to Washington, D.C. that's have experience. The experience of working with other politicians and have a track record of getting things done in difficult situations. So I'm not running on my parents or my grandparents. I'm running on what my grandparents and parents have instilled in me, the hard work ethic and the ability to get things done in difficult situations and looking at an obstacle as an opportunity. But more importantly, I have the receipts of the things that I've done. And so I need your vote, your help on April 16th. Call people that live in the district. If you don't live in the district, call your friends and family members that are in the district and say that we cannot send a hungry boy or hungry girl to get our lunch because they're going to eat it before they get back. Like Anthony Daniels on April 16th. Thank you.
My friend, I love you.
Thank you.
I appreciate you for coming. I want to thank you all for watching and listening. And as always, a huge shout out to Creed63 and URBANHAM.com. God bless.
This podcast is being brought to you by the Jones Group. The Jones Group is a full-service government relations and strategic communications firm specializing in political, corporate, and nonprofit consulting at the local, state, and federal levels. Their commitment to every client is twofold: providing trusted service and desired results. The Jones Group has built a national reputation that stands for integrity, efficacy, service, and results. You can find them on the web at www.jonesgroupllc.com.